Today we have Elzaan from the Quantum Academy here with us to help us a little bit on the subject of trauma. And I think in today's life, when we look at this topic of trauma, it is really something that a lot of us really don't understand. We don't understand that trauma can be something that we experience daily. We don't even understand that trauma can be something that is a small thing to us, but maybe our body and our mind experience it as something big. So I thought it well to ask Elzaan to share a little bit with us about trauma and the topic of trauma. So my name is Charmaine Snyman. I am from Yadayah, Holistic Health and Counselling. And Abba has really called me a long time ago with calling to help people and minister to them with regards to their health. And Abba has really taken me on a journey to show me how illness is connected to our thinking patterns and how we can actually release this negative energy, if I can say it in that way, and how Abba is always the center of everything. So from my side, I would just also like Elzaan to just introduce herself to us and just share a little bit more about her journey and what she is doing currently as well.
Thank you, Charmaine. Thank you for this opportunity. So, Charmaine and I actually go back quite a while. We were in high school together, so we were good friends from our teenage years. And it's just so amazing to see how the Lord's worked in both our lives and developed our different ministries. So it's amazing to collaborate with her again. I think the Lord has taken each one of us on our own journey. And I always say to people, you can teach something from a knowledge, book knowledge in your mind, but it's different if you've walked a path and the Lord's taken you on your own journey and you're teaching from a place of experiential knowledge. So I think that's where our ministries are also very alike. And you've had your own health journey that the Lord's taken you on. And so with me, it was really a trauma journey. So there's been a few events in my life that were really very traumatic, and we're going to get into it in a little while. What you said is very important, is that all of us experience trauma on a daily basis. So we're going to talk a little bit about, extreme trauma and then just the daily stresses in life that can also register as trauma. So for me, it really started a few years ago when I went through a very bad patch, and I just struggled to get over it. It felt like I hit a ceiling, like all of the prayers I was praying and all of the inner healing and everything that I've done, it only took me that far. And then I kind of reached the ceiling. And during that time, I also got very, very sick. I struggled with my respiratory system. I started experiencing anxiety. My digestive system was acting up. My immunity was just terrible. So in hindsight, I can see how the trauma that I experienced also affected the health in my body and my mental health. So the Lord took me on this quantum journey, and I started seeing someone in America that does quantum therapy. And the breakthrough was so amazing that I really felt like this is something that I need to study and learn so that I can help other people. And the Lord just saw so much bigger than what I imagined. So I just went and I trained through a school in the USA and started seeing clients, and that's where Healthy Vibes comes from. So Healthy Vibes is my own counseling ministry. And I called it Healthy Vibes because all of the things that make us sick is really negative vibrations. It's negative frequencies. And we want to get our body to a place, our body, soul, and spirit, where we are resonating at a healthy vibration, because that will bring forth a healthy body, soul, and spirit. And I was very happy with that. And then, there were so many people that needed help, and you're just one person, so you can't get to everyone. And also there was a lot of questions about the quantum therapy and how does it fit into the Word of God, and is it okay? It's a bit weird. And that's where the academy was born. So I started this online training academy where I train anyone that wants to learn a little bit about quantum therapy and just be able to help themselves and their loved ones. But then there's a part of the academy that trains counselors. So there are counselors that are already in ministry, and this is just one extra tool that we train them to add to their toolbox to help other people. And so that's what I do.
That's wonderful. Yes, and I also had the privilege to do the basic course of you that you also recommended that I start with. And I must say that that also opened up a whole new world to me about trauma and how the body actually stores trauma. I know that Abba also spoke to me a lot about this during my own healing journey, of course. And it was also a specific time in my life where I really also felt that I've prayed so much, I prayed so hard, and but still there was some breakthrough, but I still struggled a lot to move beyond a certain things that happened in my body. For example, I had asthma. So asthma, we know asthma is connected to fear. And yeah, so I really went for deliverance, and the asthma went away. So I had no problems anymore. And that formed part of my testimony. But there was a specific traumatic event that happened in my life. And then suddenly one day, the asthma was back. And this just felt to me as if, what did I do wrong? There was something that I was missing, and I questioned my relationship with Abba Father, and I questioned my own, my own religion, in the sense of, didn't I pray hard enough? Was this, if I can say, almost, questions like, was the spirit back again? What were the doors that I left open, and stuff like that? And then to go on this journey where you really go and seek out, his yes, you seek him in his word, you seek him in different people that you meet, and that's when Abba Father really started to minister to me about the body, and how the body has a memory, how every single cell in our body has a memory. And when this door of knowledge actually opened up to me, it was like the word said, or like the word says, you will know the truth, and the truth will really set you free. And this is my aim for today, as well as that we will share with people, and that you will share with people with regards to trauma, and what trauma actually does in the body, and how it can be captured in the body. So I really believe, like you also say, and you believe, that our Father has given us these tools for this end time that we are living in currently. Because, yes, Isaiah 61 was the scripture that Abba called me with. And yes, the scripture says, that Abba wants to set us free, wants to set the captives free, so that we can rebuild the wastelands, and so that we can build the desolation of many generations. And I think this is such a huge topic that we'll maybe need to make 2 or 3 videos on this topic of trauma, so that people can really understand in depth what happens in our body. So can you just explain to us, what is trauma from your perspective?
Yes, so trauma is anything that has a negative effect on your emotions. And I often teach the students that I call it the trauma scale, because you get trauma it may not be that severe in, if we had to categorize trauma. You may have something that just for a moment you get a fright, or you're upset, or you get stressed, or you get angry, and that can be a trauma. Then there's more severe stuff, financial pressure. If there's trouble in your relationship with a specific person or in your marriage, and then it goes to abuse, financial abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, narcissistic relationships. And then, the death of a loved one, a severe accident, a terrible diagnosis in terms of your health. So you can see how it can progress. So it's very important when people ask me what I do and I tell them I deal with trauma in the body. You know how many people have told me, oh, well, I don't need that because I've never had any trauma. And then I say to them, that's not true, because just because nothing severe has happened to you doesn't mean that there haven't been things that have upset you, that have stressed you, that you've been anxious about or sad about. And I think the reason it's really an issue today is the times that we live in. We live in a time that's very stressful. There's a lot of pressure. If you just look at most married couples, most moms have a job. So they're not at home anymore looking after the kids. And then they have to come home and cook and look after the kids and everything. So our lives are very busy. There's a lot of pressure on us. And we live very fast lives. It's not slow and steady and not full of trauma. Just switching on the TV and looking at the news is traumatic, because people get so anxious because there's all these negative things and what am I going to do about it? And there's nothing you can do about it. So I think the reason that we have an issue really with trauma in our day and age is that we don't stop to process something when it happens. The show must go on. So we suppress it, we ignore it, and we just live through it. And we don't stop because we don't have the luxury of time, we think, to stop and work through a trauma. So a trauma gets stuck in the body. Anything that's negative, that's got a negative effect on your emotions, will get stuck because you either ignore it. So the show must go on. I don't have time to deal with this now. You suppress it. So that's part of ignoring it. You just keep it deep inside of you. Sometimes people that are high functioning, anxious people will suppress it. So that anxiety actually drives them. They'll say, I perform better under pressure. So that's a good example of someone suppressing it. Getting exposed to something over and over again. If you're in a relationship where someone is abusive, that exposure to that anger all the time, to that emotional abuse all the time, that excess of exposure to that negativity, that can also cause it to get stuck in the body. And then you get inherited trauma, which is something that's quite interesting. And I've got a few interesting examples as well. Maybe we'll discuss that in another interview, because that will take us on a whole different rabbit trail now. But you can inherit trauma from the generations before you. And that's what we actually call epigenetics. So it's not always just your own trauma that you need to deal with. We need to deal with our generational trauma that is also physically in our bodies and has an effect on our health.
That's so true what you say. And I think this is what we all need to understand, is that we have things like big T traumas that we can really identify, or we can identify it in other people's lives. But then we have these small T traumas that happen to us each and every day. I remember when I was a working mom, not that I'm not a working mom currently, but having to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting the 3 children ready, but feeling in my heart as if, I'm not supposed to do this. But you have to, and you take your children and you drop them off at daycare, and they are crying and you are crying and your heart is racing. But like you say, life just goes on and you suppress all of those things. And then later on, we will discuss how it then actually shows up in the body at certain points in our life, especially if we get older. I think when we are young, we are a little bit more, we have a little bit more stamina and things like that. But when we get older, we see all of these different things popping up in different illnesses and symptoms in the body. And yes, and then yet again, we take medication to suppress that. But would you say that that trauma then can be stored in the body? And how do you think trauma is stored in the body? Can you explain to us a little bit more?
Yes, so everything that you experience on the outside is stimulus, and it creates inside of you, it triggers emotions to be formed. So the emotions don't come from outside. The emotions are actually from inside. Because of what is happening now, I start feeling sadness or anxiety or anger or rejection or whatever it is you're feeling. And that is an actual frequency that can be measured. So in quantum physics and counseling, I get into a bit more detail about it, how frequencies of emotions are measured. But basically, if you've ever had science at school, they teach you that everything has a unique frequency. Everything is actually vibrating at a unique frequency. And that frequency creates the matter that you feel and see and taste and smell. And in the same way, your body creates the frequency of that emotion inside of you, of that traumatic event inside of you, the emotions related to it. And the idea is that as we become conscious of the emotion, we're supposed to process it and it releases out of the body. So you very seldom find a negative, a positive emotion stuck in the body, because it's good. So we feel that happiness and we release it out of the body. And that's why happiness can be something that you feel when you spend time with me. When my energy is high and I'm happy and I'm making jokes and I'm laughing, it usually rubs off because it doesn't stay inside of me. It's something that works through my system and I release. But with negative emotions, what happens is because we suppress it or we don't deal with it, it becomes stuck inside of the body instead of us releasing it and working through it. And there's also, I can't remember now, I think it's in Quantum Soul that I teach people, how do you process a negative emotion? How do you deal with the trauma when you're in it so it doesn't become stuck in the body? So as that frequency becomes stuck in the body, it creates imbalances in the body. So I'm going to move on to how trauma affects the body, if that's fine with you. So yes. What happens is your body now also has unique frequencies. So there's a frequency that creates the matter that is Charmain, okay? That's unique to you. No one else has got that energetic frequency. But your heart has got a unique frequency that created the heart cells. Your kidney has got unique frequency that created the kidney cells. Your liver, your skin, your hair. So every part of your body has got a slightly different unique frequency that created the matter that made up the body. So imagine now if you've got a adrenal gland that's on top of the kidneys, and it's experiencing a lot of stress. So now it keeps on experiencing anxiety, 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 and all of that anxiety goes and it gets stuck in the kidney. So now this kidney is not only sitting with frequency of a kidney that's supposed to function like a kidney, it's fighting all of this foreign frequencies called anxiety. And that other frequency vibrates at a different level than the frequency of the kidney. So that different vibration causes the kidney to become inflamed. And then that inflammation later on can lead to physical symptoms. Now you've got someone with high blood pressure and they go to the doctor and the doctor wants to give you a little tablet for your high blood pressure, but it's only suppressing the symptom. it's not going back to the root saying, okay, what is the trauma that caused all of this cortisol to be released, all of this anxiety? What is the root of that? How do we identify all of the anxiety and fear and stress and get rid of it? How do we clean out this kidney so that it can be rebalanced and start just vibrating at the frequency of a kidney? And something that you mentioned that's really interesting is that when we experience trauma, it's very seldom that there is immediately a physical symptom related to the trauma, because our bodies are extremely resilient. So our bodies can walk with that trauma for very long. And then I call it the straw that broke the camel's back. Then later on in life, something may happen and it's like your body just, it can't. It can't carry all of the trauma it's been carrying through the years and what's happening right now. And then suddenly, it seems, you've got this symptom, you've got this illness that you never had. But if we go back and we trace it back to the trauma and we can get all of those foreign frequencies out, then there's healing that can take place in the body.
It's amazing to be able to understand how our Father has created us. And I think this is the central part of what I do and what you do as well, is that our Father is at the center of everything that we do. So when I always say to my clients as well, you know, when our Father says in His Word, if you seek me, you will find me. There's a part on our side that we need to do. We really need to seek our Father out. And I think for a long time, we have just been so content with and in a comfort zone. Like this is, you know, this is what the church teaches. This is what people say. This is what a doctor or a nurse says, or somebody that I've trusted. And therefore, I just take that as it is. And well, I'm just going to have high blood pressure for the rest of my life, or I'm going to have fibromyalgia for the rest of my life, because that's just how it is. But our Father says that He has given us life and life in abundance. I think, and this is the passion that I also see in the work that you do, and the passion that our Father has given me as well. Especially during the COVID time, when I saw so many people, it was almost as if, you know, when everybody went home and relaxed, it was almost as if there was all of these symptoms popping up in people, and this is where everything started for me as well, and seeing so many people that passed away long before their time. And something I just also want to share in this you know, in this video that we are doing is, you know, when our Father says in His Word, everything that He says in His Word is the truth. So if our Father says in His Word that He wants to live, He wants us to live up until 120 years old, He's not lying. You know, He's telling the truth. He wants us to experience life and the fullness of it. But yeah, we really need to seek Him out, and all the information that's being shared today, I would advise everybody to go and do their own research, that they will go and seek and knock and find and contact either you or contact me if they want to know more about the topics that we are going to talk about later on as well. But like you've said, everything gets stored in the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is the part of the brain that's like the hard drive, like you've also mentioned in a previous video of yours, and this is what makes the computer run. So this is our beliefs and our emotions, our habits, everything. And when we were a child, and I think children, this is what we don't understand, and this is something that also happened to us, is something maybe that's a traumatic event that happened in those early childhood development years, and you maybe didn't have the correct vocabulary to talk about that. Not being able to speak about what you are feeling at that current stage in your life has a huge impact, because now the body cannot release this, or cannot make sense of this emotion, or cannot make sense of this feeling. And the moment that the body cannot make sense of that, the body then internalizes that. And this is where a lot of us also feel as if we need to perform to be perfect, because it comes from this place of that our needs were not met, maybe not intentionally, but by our parents, because I don't think that there's one parent that really wants to damage their children by the words that they've said or that they've not said. But this is something that we all need to look at, because a lot of our problems that we experience in our life really comes from that early childhood development years as well. So I would also just like to ask you, how do we then go about to release the trauma from the body?
So there are a few ways. I'm going to tell you a bit about the quantum therapy now, but I want to tell you about the other methods as well, because I always say to people, there isn't just one thing that works. There's usually a combination of things. So prayer is a big thing. I remember growing up, if we fell and hurt ourselves, or if something happened, or if someone's child in front of my mom would fall or get hurt, my mom would immediately take the child and say, in the name of Yeshua, I break shock over you. And I never realized until I started doing this, how profound that is, how important that is. Because if something like that happens in that moment, shock does become trapped in that child's body. So prayer is a big thing. If you feel a certain emotion and you're experiencing it, you're experiencing fear, or you're experiencing heartache or rejection, you can immediately pray and ask the Lord to release that frequency and to deal with that. And sometimes, I also tell the students that we are body, soul, and spirit. So sometimes it's a spirit of fear that's attacking you, and you need to rebuke that spirit of fear, but that frequency that you've agreed with, to release that as well. So prayer is a big thing. As therapy, so talking about it, like you said, as children, sometimes we don't have the vocabulary to express what we've experienced. And in Quantum Soul, I added a little chapter on that for the mommies, and there's a chart like with little colorful pictures that the child can point to, and you can talk to them about the picture that they're identifying with, because talking is a big thing. Because the moment you talk about, what did I just feel now? Why did I feel like that? What does this mean? What can I do about it? You're starting to acknowledge the emotion, to process it, instead of suppressing and ignoring it. So talking is great. Another thing that I advise my clients to do is to write. Sometimes people don't like talking, but you like writing down. So maybe you sit and write. This is how I felt. This is why I felt like it. This is what I can do about it. Writing is also a great form of therapy and of bringing it into the conscious mind and expelling it. And then the quantum therapy, we work with biofeedback in the body. So when you do a session with a quantum therapist, they're going to test specifically to identify those frequencies in the body, and then each frequency is released through prayer. So in a normal session, we would allow the client, if they want to, they can talk about it, and we encourage it, because talking does really help with the processing. But if you don't want to talk, you don't have to, because your body does the talking. Your body knows what is it experienced, what is stuck there, what is causing the symptom. So through quantum therapy, we use a method called muscle testing, and I do cover that quite extensively in quantum physics and counseling, just explaining how it works and the science behind it. And then in Quantum Soul, I teach you how to do it. So you can learn how to do it for yourself, but you can also go and see a quantum consultant that can help you with it. So those are the 4 things that I'm sure there are other ways as well. But as with everything, we need to be careful of not exploring methods that are not godly and doesn't line up with the word of God. So those are methods that I feel are very safe to use. And especially the science around quantum, God created everything. The enemy cannot create. He can only kill, steal, and destroy. There's nothing he can create. So when we take science and we say, okay, God created science, God created our bodies, how do we apply this tool to get healing? That can only be the author of that can only be God. And God's heart has always been for our bodies through the right nutrition, through living according to his commandments. And through this, if you've gone through a trauma, to look at how in a godly way to deal with it. But God's heart is through all of those methods that our bodies will self-heal and regenerate. There was never this idea of taking a little tablet or a little pill or a little this or that. God built all of the healing properties into the plants that we use, into the things that he say is food, into a healthy lifestyle, into the commandments he gives us. And that really forms a hedge of protection that cultivates healthy bodies. So we need to also address any issue that we have from, what does God's word say? So addressing the spirit, addressing the soul, and addressing the body as a holistic, like in the whole person, body, soul, and spirit, addressing an issue.
Oh, that's so true what you are saying. And something that I also just want to add to this is when we look at our body and we look at how our Father created us and our central nervous system and how amazing our central nervous system actually works with our emotions, and it works with the feelings that we experience, to actually then also to understand that the body's primary function, if we just look at the body alone, is to keep you safe. That's the primary function of the body. So the moment that the body feels threatened through the trauma or through this emotion that you are experiencing. Somebody also spoke the other day about something that was so profound. So they explain it like this. So, for example, a tiger is chasing you. Ne? So, if a tiger is chasing you, you can run away from the tiger, and the adrenals, like you say, they release the hormone cortisol, which then increases the heart rate, and it opens up the lungs so that you can breathe properly, and that energy can be released to the muscles because you need to run away. But the moment that you are safe, if you are in a tree, for example, and the tiger is not there anymore, the whole body restores back to the way it was before. So meaning your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone, then actually just it turns back to the way it was supposed to. And when we look at it from this perspective, emotions, negative emotions, does exactly the same. And the thing is, it's like a tiger chasing you, and you cannot run away from it if you don't resolve that. And I think this is what I see a lot with my clients as well, is that they don't have time. They'll say, I don't have time. I don't have time to deal with this. I don't want to open this box. I don't want to go back and it means that you just keep on repeating the same patterns in your life. And I think our Father has brought us to this place where we really need to bring safety back to the body. So the moment I always tell my clients as well before we talk, I'll tell them, imagine a place where you are safe. I know that you are also doing some of these exercises, but imagine a place where you are safe. Think about something that makes you feel safe, and doing different breathing exercises like box breathing as well, where you inhale for four counts, and then keep your breath for 4 counts and exhale for 4, and then keep it again for 4. Just doing the breath work then actually stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system that is for rest and digest. And this is what your body needs. Your body needs to feel safe, because maybe for a long time in your life, you've never felt safe, or you don't feel safe in your marriage, or you don't feel safe at work. And this is the things that we are sitting with currently when we are speaking to clients. And I always say they are like patients that you are speaking to. I see every day that people don't feel safe. And it's not just because of external things, but it's really because of internal things that makes the whole body feel unsafe. And when the body is in that state of being unsafe, you are in the sympathetic nervous system state. And that state can, then increases the fact that you cannot sleep well. Your digestive tract, you get a lot of problems with the digestive tract, like IBS symptoms and gastrointestinal symptoms and ulcers and things like that. And because that's the organ that the body immediately shuts down, because you don't need that when you're running away from a tiger. You need your heart, and you need your heart, and you need your lungs. So you don't need your gut. So this is why there's so many people that I see, when they fill in the form, one of the first questions that I ask is, do you have IBS symptoms? Do you have constipation symptoms? And immediately they say yes. And when they say yes, I know that there's a form of stress in the body, but then it can also be, like you said, it can be related to nutrition. And what I've seen is when we want to look at the soul, and we want to release the emotions, it's very important that we look after the body. We have to supply the body with the correct nutrition. We have to supply it with the right amount of glucose to keep your energy levels like it is supposed to. And this is when I will sometimes just see the body reboot these things out of the body, just because you have the correct nutrition available. So this is also just something that I want to say when we're talking about how can we release trauma. When we talk about it in a holistic sense, it's like you say, we have to look at the body, the soul, and the spirit. And we have focused so much on the soul that we've actually neglected the body. And, as if that's something that Abba, it's not something that's so important. But Abba says it's the temple which in his spirit dwells. So we have to, we definitely have to look after, we have to look after our bodies. And a lot of times, something that I also just want to mention is when we look at, say, for example, cancer patients, and when they, for example, if they went for chemo and things like that, and they got healed from the cancer, and also we prayed for deliverance and things like that, sometimes we will see the cancer return again. And a lot of times when you go back and you ask the clients, how's your lifestyle? What have you been doing? What have you been eating? What are you thinking about? What's your thinking patterns? When we look at all of those things, then you can immediately identify and see why the cancer is back. And I think this is part of restoring the image of God back to its original form. Because a lot of people will think, why is God allowing these things to happen to me? Why is God allowing illness? But not that I'm saying that it's our fault, but if we can have the knowledge of looking at the body, the soul, and the spirit, and we bring all of it together, this is when everything will then be restored back to the original purpose as Abba intended. But it takes time, Elzaan. I think that's the thing is it's not something that will happen overnight. I think we live in a society where we want a quick fix for everything, but we really have to put in the work. And this is what the word says. We are in lack of endurance. And this is what Abba wants for us, is he wants us to finish the race. And this is where we are there for people. And at your Quantum Academy, you also have a lot of consultants which are there for people to walk this road with them and to help them to go towards this complete healing and restoration like Abba has intended it to be.
Yeah. And just one last thing that I want to say, and then I think we should definitely do a few more podcasts. And that's where you really come in, is you know, from the very beginning, God was concerned about what we eat, because one of the first commandments he gave to Adam and Eve was what they're allowed to eat from and what they're not allowed to eat from. And we see from there many times in the word where he says, this is what you're allowed to eat and this is what you're not allowed to eat. Even Noah knew what was clean and what was unclean. We can see that by what he took into the ark with him. So, you know, I think even the consultations that you do where you have the people fill in the form and you work out a protocol for them and the diet that you help them with, that's such an important part of this journey. Because we cannot just focus on one thing. We can't just now harp on, let's just work on the trauma in the body. If we release the trauma in the body, we need to change the way that you live, the way that you eat, the way that you think, the way that you talk. Even prayer and reading the Word of God has got such a profound effect on the health of the person. So it's really approaching it from all sides and changing. You know, that it's that saying that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So we need to see what are we doing over and over that's not producing life, and get rid of that.
I think that's so important, is that we will, you know, that we will have life, that we will have life and life in abundance. And there's too many people that are living in captivity. And I'm just so grateful that Abba Father has allowed these people to cross my path and to cross your path. And I think this is the joy that we also get out of the satisfaction that we get from seeing clients and knowing that we can actually just give them a little piece of the puzzle which will help them on their journey, because nobody's journey is the same. That's the thing, because we are sometimes comparing our journey to somebody else, and our journeys are totally different. And when we compare our journey with somebody else, this is also when it sets in motion this whole stress reaction in the body, like you've said, and that can be also traumatic for the body. But I just want to say thank you for allowing me to interview you today. And I'm sure that the information that you have shared will help a lot of people. And I just want you to also just quickly share, where can people get a hold of you and contact you if they want more information about what you do?
I'm going to put the Academy's website and details in the description of this YouTube video. And I'll put your contact details in there as well, so that if people want to contact you and they need help with their diet and with a proper protocol in terms of essential oils and the resins and everything, they've got your contact details as well. Okay.
Thank you so much, Elzaan, and I'm looking forward to our next podcast as well.
Me too.
So everybody can also leave a comment in the description below if you have some comments, if you have some questions that you would like to ask us. If there are topics that you would like us to discuss further with regards to trauma and things like that, I think it would be wonderful if you can also just type that in the comments below, and we can have a look at that and we can share some more insights with you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.